Sandy Says Read, and welcome to the channel. This evening we are going to do the November wrap-up, and this month, we are going to make this a little bit more book-centric than the wrap-ups usually are. I know it's a book channel, they should all be book-centric, but I have noticed that the monthly wrap-ups tend to ramble just a little bit. I tend to ramble. As you know, I tend to ramble on this channel. It just happens, okay? But we're going to try to keep this a little bit more book-centric than we usually do with these wrap-ups, okay? I'm going to try. And I'm also going to mention to you guys that you should go ahead and download your, what is this? This is the Sandy Says Read bingo card from the Bingo Baker channel. I will put a link to that in the drop-down box below so you can go grab your Bingo Baker card because you guys, I'm pretty sure I'm going to say all the things while we're doing this wrap-up. Yeah, since we're getting all bookish, you might as well have your bookish bingo card so you can check off these words and phrases as I say them. You can get the dopamine hit for that. No prize for that, just the happy, wonderful feeling of checking off those words. Yeah, okay. In this wrap-up, we are going to dive into the discussion that's going on around BookTube about the decline in readers, the reading decline that's happening out there. I was really intrigued by the discussion that's started. So I wanted to put in my 2 cents on that. Before we get started though, I want to welcome you guys to subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel. Please welcome your friends to subscribe to the channel too. Because you guys, it is all books here at the Sandy Says Read channel. Bookish stuff, book reviews, BookTube tags, and the monthly wrap-up where we're trying to make it a little bit more bookish. All right, shall we begin? Shall we dive in? I want to welcome all the new subscribers here to the channel. I have noticed, I've seen you guys, I have noticed a little uptick in the number of subscribers, followers, participants here at the channel, and that's awesome. That is great. Welcome, come on in, bring a cup of tea or hot cocoa or wine or whatever, and join us in the mayhem and chaos that takes place here at Sandy Says Read. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is the first day of the Chocolate Lovers Advent Calendar. Is that what it's called? Hang on, you guys. And this is what you can expect here at the channel. Random chaos, mayhem, and confusion. The Chocolate Advent Calendar with Bible text. You guys, I did do a video here on the channel during the month of November, which we'll talk about in a minute. I did do a video here about the Advent Calendar mayhem that took place. I wanted to do an Advent calendar for you guys, and I did get a Book Lovers Advent calendar that was a complete and utter failure, disaster. I don't recommend it. You can see the video. I'll put a link to that in the drop-down box below. You can see that video and see why we're not going to be doing that particular one every day here in December, but we are going to be doing this one. Okay, so in our day number 1, for the Chocolate Advent Calendar with Bible text. Oh, I will never be able to get that little piece of chocolate out of there. Hang on. Here we go. Okay, there's the little piece of chocolate. Okay, the Bible text is, "The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light." Isaiah 9:1. Nice. There we go. You guys know I want to do this every day of Advent, right? I will fail. I'm just going to say it right up front right now. Given my life and the many things I do in my life and my day job, I will fail. I am certain of it. To hit every single one of these little boxes every single day. We will double up on a couple of them. I'm just sure of it. Okay? When we do, it'll be fine. We'll just do a couple in a row once in a while here on the channel. If you hit the bell notification icon, you'll be notified when it happens. Yeah. And tomorrow's the 2nd, right? Yeah, today's the 1st. Tomorrow is the 2nd. Oh my gosh, you guys, you're witnessing in real time the way my brain just fires things off. I need to call my niece and wish her a happy birthday. Okay. Anyway, tomorrow on the 2nd, I'm going to be filming the podcast interview with J. Patrick Lamar. Jeff Lamar has a brand new podcast here on YouTube. It's just getting started. I think I am the first subscriber. to his channel, but you guys can subscribe too. It's the Write More Right Now, and write is spelled W-R-I-T-E. Write More Right Now. I'll put the link to that in the drop-down box below. But tomorrow evening on the 2nd, we're going to be filming that, and I will film the second day of Advent and have that for you guys. But I'm not sure exactly when the interview on the Write More Right Now podcast will appear. I don't know when the interview will happen. So you guys will have to subscribe to his channel and click his bell notification icon so that you'll be notified. Good? We met next on the you guys. Hang on. We're going to check that off. I'm trying to be organized for you guys. I am trying. Okay, the bookish things that happened here on the channel in November. We had an original tag during the week of Thanksgiving. Did an original tag for Christmas. I think I called it the Christmas Joy book tag. I'll put a link to that in the drop-down box below. You guys, that's a theme, right? Let's see. Also in November, we had the Advent calendar chat. And I mentioned that already. I did the 10 before the end tag, which was pretty popular here around on BookTube. Oh, and I am reading a couple of those books that I mentioned in that tag. We'll talk about those in a second here. Let's see. I also posted another original tag about book choices. That one you can see here on the channel. I did the live stream interview with Nessa Brown. We talked about Nessa's, writing journey, how she's getting started, and her 2 stories that are in the Storms of the Brain short story anthology. So we discussed that here on the channel. And I also did the October wrap up in the month of November. Now, I've written all those down. And as I looked at that, writing that down for you guys, as I looked at that, I realized, holy crap, I didn't upload any reviews in the month of November. What the heck? You guys, I filmed a couple of reviews. Yeah, because I did read some books. I mean, I wrote down here the books that I've read. So I've got a couple of reviews, blah, blah, blah. I have a couple of reviews that I have ready to upload for you guys. There are some book reviews coming. They're coming. This is a BookTube channel. There are book reviews coming. Please be patient with me, please. All right, let's see. Then books I wrote. So some stories that I wrote during November. These I actually wrote prior to November. It's just during November that they got solidified, I guess is the way to say it. I don't know. My story, short story, Mimicking the Dead, just advanced to like the top 128. You guys, there's a thing called the writing battle, and these writing battles take place like pretty frequently. It's not just each season, but in between the seasons. It's a new thing that I've discovered. It's new to me thing that I discovered happening. So this was the first one. The autumn writing battle is the first one I participated in. You have a week to write a short story based on the prompts that they give you. My 3 prompts were cemetery tale. So the setting was a garden, and the character I got was a leader. So my story is called Mimicking the Dead, and it moved to the top 128. Like there are different brackets of battles. I don't understand it very well. I just know that's where it is. That's where my story is at this point. There are so many stories. Like I got to read some of the stories that were battling in other categories, like not cemetery tales, but in other categories. And there were some pretty doggone good stories. So there's no hope for mine. Let me just state that right up front. We'll be doing something else with Mimicking the Dead in the future. The other story, Dragon Lessons. I think I might have mentioned this in the October wrap-up. I think I knew at the end of October that Dragon Lessons had been accepted into a dragon anthology. So that dragon anthology is called Dragon Legends, and that will be released at the end of January. Yay! So there's that. Okay, so check that off the list, you guys. All right, next up, books I read. Okay, so I finished reading Five and Dime. You guys, I think I read that in October. It's right over here, Five and Dime. You can see that without the glare. Five and Dime Christmas. This one is, I finished reading it. I've got all my notes in there for you. You see all the notes in there for you guys? Yeah, I just have to film the review for y'all. Yeah, I'll get to it. I also read Edgar Allan Poe and the 12 Days of Christmas. That was a trip. So I've got that. And I think I've already filmed that for you guys. I read Sherlock Holmes and the 12 Thefts of Christmas. I've got that filmed for you guys. I read Sounding Joy, which we're going to talk about in just a moment here. I read Melania, and I've got that filmed and ready for you guys. I'm reading Castle of Calamity. I'm about a quarter of the way through that one. That one's by Robert Strife. And then let's see, I'm reading The Christmas Train. And you guys, let's see, am I about a third of the way through this one? About a third of the way through that one. You can see where the bookmark is. Yeah, I'm reading The Christmas Train by David Baldacci. This one, you guys, I cannot DNF it. I won't let myself DNF this one. I'm not enjoying it. Let me just state that right up. I'm not enjoying this one as much as I thought I was going to be enjoying it. I believe I spoke about it in the 10 before the end tag. I think I talked about this because it has so much promise. There is this like Hallmark movie channel quality to it, right? When I read the information on the inside, where's the, like the inside flap or whatever, when I read that, there was just this potential to be awesome and amazing. I was really excited. And now I'm not so excited anymore. I'm going to power through because of this whole like decline in readership concept that folks are talking about here on BookTube. I feel as if I owe it to the reading community to power through this thing and really just read the whole thing, like prove to myself that I don't have the attention span of a gnat. I mean, I need to prove to myself I can read this book even if I'm not enjoying it. I can get all the way through. There is a video here on the channel where I talk about how it is okay to DNF a book if you're not enjoying it. And yet here I am doing this to myself. So we'll see. We'll see if I get all the way through. There it is. So there's The Christmas Train. We'll get through that. Okay, now, am I done with that? Check that off the list. Okay, but before we go into the whole like readership declining discussion, I want to talk about Sounding Joy. Where is it? This is not it. This is Because of Bethlehem. Oh yeah, I'm also reading Because of Bethlehem. Yeah, I'm not even a third of the way through this one yet. Is this random? Is this crazy? It is. Okay, so this book, Sounding Joy. Let's get that up there where you can see it. Try to get the glare off of it because it is so pretty. Look at how beautiful this book is. This is a book for kids. It's a children's Christmas book. Obviously, it has there's glitter on it, right? There's glitter. These letters are raised on the front cover and they're glittery and sparkly. There is a beauty to this board book that is wonderful. I was attracted to it when I saw it online. I don't remember how it was brought to my attention. I don't remember. Even though it was just a couple weeks ago, I don't remember how this was introduced to me. You guys, it's been that kind of month, okay? But I read through it to bring it to you guys real quickly. Let's start with The Specs, shall we? Sounding Joy by Ellie Holcomb, the singer-songwriter. It's illustrated by Laura Ramos. It was published in 2022 by B&H Publishing Group. This is 24 pages, full color, beautiful pages. Okay, beautiful designs. It is joyful. It is simple. It is pretty. It is lovely. Put a little page there to show you guys this spread in particular. There's going to be a glare. I apologize. I'll try to get the glare off of it because I want you to see some of the little details that are in the illustrations that just bring this thing to life. Okay. Over here, you see there's a little owl family in that tree, little owl family in there. Okay. And then there's like a Christmas tree in the window of the house behind the kids, right? And then over here, On this tree, there's a little bird family in the nest and a little bird flying back to the nest. You see him flying back to his family? I love that. I love the detail. And you guys know I'm bird crazy anyway, right? I loved the detail, the little colors popping out all over the place. This was a lovely book, a lovely message, just very well done. Now, this book, it's a children's book, kind of a quick little review there, right? It gives me the opportunity to introduce to you guys the 2024 Christmas Cheer Chart. Here we have the Christmas Cheer Chart, which is a way for me to show you guys all different Christmas books that I'm bringing you and how they rate for reason for the season and festiveness. Okay, what we have here is festiveness can go from dry as a fruitcake all the way up to light display you can see from space. All right, and then reason for the season, we have 5 stars of Bethlehem, reason for the season, all the way down to, oh, you forgot the manger. Okay, so this particular book, Sounding Joy, you guys, it totally, fully, completely has the reason for the season. This, I mean, Ellie Holcomb, she remembered the reason for the season and she packed it in there. She definitely has the 5 stars of Bethlehem for this book. Okay, so we're going to be up here on this axis for this book. It didn't have as much festiveness as some other Christmas books that I have read. So it's not quite as, it's not all the way up here in like the light display that you can see from space, but I wouldn't say it was as dry as a fruitcake either. So it's going to be closer to the middle here in this axis. So I'm going to keep it up here, but kind of in the middle, maybe like right over here. Can you guys see that? Yeah, okay, right over here. This is where we're going to put Sounding Joy on the Christmas Cheer Chart of 2024. Sorry about that huge editing cut right there, you guys. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is this idea of the readers that we're losing, the decline in readers, and why I feel compelled to finish reading The Christmas Train. I don't want to DNF The Christmas Train because I want to prove to myself that I don't have the attention span of a gnat. All right. Now, so here's where this is coming from. There is a conversation, a discussion that has begun here on YouTube in BookTube circles. I saw it originate with Jared Henderson. Of course, I will put links to his video and to Shelly Swearingen's video in the drop-down box below. I saw Jared's video in mid-October, okay? And he titled it, Why Everyone Stopped Reading, okay? Yes, that's a little clickbaity. Not everyone has stopped reading, but he is discussing the idea that right now in universities around North America, kids are, and I apologize for calling them kids, but I'm 54. I'm ancient. If you're in college, you're a kid to me, okay? Kids in college they're feeling overwhelmed because professors are assigning novels to them to read. They're feeling overwhelmed by having to read an entire novel in a week's time. To me, that sounds ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. And we're going to talk about why it's not ridiculous. To me, it feels ridiculous because I have an English degree. When I was in college, back in the Stone Age, when I was in college, I had to read a book per class per week. All right. Sometimes it was 2 novels per week in some of the classes. I mean, I had literature classes that were like American literature, British literature, Old English literature. Okay, try reading a novel in another language. Old English is not modern day English. That's beside the point. My point is, right now, there are kids in college in our country. I'm in the United States. There are kids in our country who are feeling overwhelmed when a professor says to them, here, read To Kill a Mockingbird this week. We're going to discuss it next week. We're going to write a book report about it next week. There's going to be a test on it next week. Okay. These kids are feeling overwhelmed by that because they have not been taught how to read an entire full-length novel. All right. Now, when Shelly did her response video in mid-November, she did an awesome job of talking about how, as a teacher, she has had to teach to the test. I mean, standardized testing is a big deal in this country, which is like the understatement of the year, right? I have many friends who went to school to become educators, to become teachers, and I have utmost respect for the education they got and the education they have given to help mold and shape the minds of the next generation. But they have spoken in casual settings, at parties, at meetings that we've had, meetups that we've had. They've spoken about the disappointment they have, the frustrations they have in having to teach to the test. It is a thing. Back when I was released the Dragons in Space novels that I've done, those are young adult novels. They're geared toward junior high students and up. And I approached one of my friends who teaches in middle grade, and hey, this can't be part of the curriculum, but could this be a book that is just as to read outside class as extra credit for class? Could this ever be a title that would be suggested? And my friend was very honest with me. She's like, you know what? We don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. We don't have time for what's on the curriculum. We're teaching to the test. There's no time for extra books. Like, wow, that's an interesting concept. And I've heard that concept over the years. It's a constant. Teachers don't have time to add stuff in. They don't have time to put things into the curriculum. Several years back, I want to say maybe 10 years ago, several years back, when National Novel Writing Month was not as problematic as it is now, I had approached one of middle grade school teacher friends and said, hey, you should suggest this project to your class. This is awesome for young adults to, be involved in writing stories for the month of November. This was before many problematic things were happening. Thank God my friend didn't have time, room in the curriculum to throw that project in. There wasn't room for that. That's a blessing in disguise, right? I mean, now that we know so many things about NaNoWriMo, but the point was that the fact of the matter was they didn't have time to add in something that they could have been educational, that could have been a benefit to the students. They didn't have time for that because they were teaching to the test. That teaching to the test comes into play, and Shelly explains it so much better than I'm about to do. That teaching to the test comes into play because teachers do not have the time to teach a novel. They don't have the time to take Jane Eyre and have their students read Jane Eyre over a semester, read the entire novel, and then come into class and discuss the points of Jane Eyre. They don't have time to talk about, the abuse that happened in the school and how Jane overcomes that and how Jane moves on to become a woman of values and principles. They don't have time to go over those kinds of themes. They don't have time for that. They don't have time for it. Instead, what they have time for is to teach the kids how to evaluate a snippet of Jane Eyre or a snippet of Moby Dick or a snippet of The Scarlet Letter. Okay. They're not getting to read the entire Scarlet Letter anymore. You get to read a few paragraphs of it, glean from those few paragraphs what the theme of this section is, what was Hester Prynne doing in this section. Okay, now talk about that in an essay. Write an essay. Maybe they write essays, responses. I don't know. Maybe it's just multiple choice. I don't know. But come up with what was Hester Prynne doing here, right? That's what they're being taught to do. They're being taught how to take little snippets and understand these little snippets, 4 or 5 paragraphs here, 2 pages here, instead of here's how to read a novel. and understand it and glean something from it for your life. They're not being taught that anymore. So by the time they get to college and they're confronted with, here, you should read To Kill a Mockingbird. Oh my gosh, this is suddenly a challenge. It's something that they can't fathom that. And that is a shame. That hurts my heart. That makes me sad. Not just because I write novels, but because we have a whole generation of students, this whole generation of people who are not readers. Now, Jared has a thought about that. He does discuss, the idea of what we're reading and what students are reading. I mean, we are able to read. Kids are able to read. I mean, we can go out into the world and we can read, the traffic signs. We can read road signs. We can read things and get around in the world. We can read the stuff on our phone. We can still get around, but there's a certain reading comprehension skill that has been lost if we're not reading short stories, novellas, novels, series of novels. Oh, don't get me started on series of novels. Anyway, in my experience, I was born in 1970. Let me just go ahead and tell you guys that. I was born in 1970, thus I am ancient, right? Now, Jared explained in his video that in the 50s and 60s, well, starting in like the 60s and 70s, the education process of teaching kids to read with phonics was going out of style. It was being replaced with this whole language model of teaching, okay? I was very fortunate in that I remember being taught how to read with phonics and with this whole language model, okay, both. I think that's because I moved through different school systems a lot. Okay, a few things were happening in my early development. First of all, my dad was in the Air Force, so we moved a lot, okay? And we were not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. So there was a period of time where my mom and I lived with my dad's sister. So we lived with my Aunt B for a period of time, all right? And my Aunt B was an English teacher. So she was able to teach me some reading skills. Okay, she could teach me, all right? And she had been teaching for a while. She was much older than my dad. It's a thing. Okay, so she had been teaching for a while. So she wasn't necessarily only knowing the whole language model of teaching. She also remembered the phonics model of teaching. So I was learning with phonics. I remember learning how to sound out words. I remember my mom saying to me, sound it out, sound it out. I remember her telling me, if you don't know how to spell it, look it up in the dictionary. And I'm like, how do you look something up if you don't know how to spell it? You sound it out. Okay, I remember that so well from my youth. Right, so I remember being taught how to sound things out. You guys, my grandfather helped me learn how to read. I remember sitting on his lap and sitting beside him, too big to sit on his lap, scooched up in his easy chair next to him, learning how to read. I remember very distinctly this gray, weathered book called Dick and Jane. It was the exact same book that my father had learned to read with. Okay, so my father, who had learned to read with this book in the early 1950s, was in my hands, and I was learning how to read from it in the 1970s, the early 1970s. By the time I went to kindergarten in 1975, I knew how to read. Okay, I know a lot of people know how to read by the time they get to kindergarten, but I was learning how to read with the tools that my father had learned how to read with. If that makes sense. Are you tracking with me here? So I was learning how to read with a mix of the 1950s and the 1970s. So I was using both of those systems. And you guys, it worked. Okay, look at me. I have a BookTube channel now. I write books on the side. That's my side hustle, is to write books. I've got this one right here, Silver Bells, that is going gangbusters at the moment. My Choices series has been printed twice because the first publisher went out of business. Okay, I'm still writing stories because I love stories and I love reading. It is a part of my existence. Reading is a part of, it's a part of who I am. I love it. Is that because I was taught at an early age by people who cared about me and wanted me to read? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that is part of it. Maybe it's part of it is because I didn't have a cell phone when I was 5. Who knows what the secret ingredient is, but Jared and Shelly talk about it in their videos. I firmly believe part of the way to encourage kids, whether they're pre-college or college age today, is to remind them that reading is not a chore. It's not necessarily an assignment that you have to do and get through for a class. Reading, you guys, reading can be an escape. It can be an education. It can be fun. It can be therapy. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something that Jared said in his video, and I'm taking it out of context. So when I say it, it's going to sound terrible. I apologize profusely to Jared. I'm taking this out of context, and that's why it sounds terrible. But we're going to talk about it, and you'll understand why it's not terrible, okay? Track with me for just a second here, because we're going to take what Jared said, and we're going to flip it a little bit, all right? Here we go. So in Jared's video, which I'm encouraging you guys to go watch, he said, the act of reading is really boring. Okay, now what he was talking about is compared to when you're scrolling on your phone and something's moving and you get that dopamine rush from things, right? When you're out playing sports and you're moving around and doing things, the act of reading, you're stationary, you're sitting, you're reading. Kind of boring. I say let's turn that on its head. The act of reading can be calming, okay? Yeah, maybe you're just seated reading a book, but this is a calming position, okay? This is a calming, settling position to be in, to be reading, all right? But it's also like self-therapy, okay? Y'all, there is a tag going around here on BookTube called the Moody Reader, all right? It was already done like 4 years ago, but a couple people have done it here recently, and I'm going to do this tag too. But in that tag, one of the questions asks, you know, when you're sad, what do you read? Do you read a sad book, a happy book, a contemplative book? What do you read if you're sad? You guys, reading is therapy, I'm telling you. And if we can push that message as well, I think it will resonate with the college age student who's looking for some help, who's looking for something to help with their mental health wellness. All right? Think about it. When you're feeling sad, what kind of book do you turn to? I'm asking you the question. You can put it in the comments below. When you're feeling sad, when you're feeling down, when the weight of the world is on your shoulders, what kind of book do you turn to? Personally, for me, I like to turn to fantasy. Of course, I always turn to fantasy. If it's got a dragon in it, I'm there, right? I turn to something that's going to take me away, something that's going to spin a tale, that's going to bring me out of this world that's making me sad and take me somewhere else on an adventure, into another realm, okay? Reading is self-therapy. And if we can help push that message, I think we can get through to some of these kids who are feeling overwhelmed by the concept of reading. If folks have stopped reading because we didn't train them how to read the novella or the novel length work, okay, let's get them interested in that novella or novel length work again. Let's show them, here's your self-therapy. Here's your calming, relaxing, fabulous, therapeutic moment. You can take an hour or 2 hours, 3 hours, and just immerse yourself in therapy, in book therapy, in reading therapy, in someone's imagination that's being poured into your imagination. I think if we can drive that message home, I think it will help bring people back to the concept that reading isn't scary. Reading doesn't have to be scary. You don't have to be trained to read. You just have to want to read. And the training, I think, will come along. We just have to get people back into it. Does that make sense? You're tracking with me, right? we're all in a rush and we're all in a hurry. So sitting down to read 50 pages at a time, 100 pages at a time, it can be a tall order. I get that. But if there's an excitement to it, if there's a desire to it, then I think we can convince people to give it a try. I would like to help convince people to give it a try. There you go. All right, you guys, that is the November wrap up. A lot of rambling happened there. I am aware there was a lot of rambling. I am going to give the Christmas train my very best try to get all the way through it. I'm hoping that it starts to pick up and that I start to enjoy it. If I don't, I'm going to make sure I give it the old college try. All right, you guys, thumbs up for the November wrap up and all the November goodies that we have done. Thumbs up for encouraging people to read. Thank you so much for tuning in.